You'll be delighted to hear that this weekend we're once again doing another ticket giveaway competition for our Patreon subscribers. We're giving away 2 tickets to go and see your championship team. All you have to do is sign up and become a second-tier Patreon supporter for just £3.50 a month. Nothing nowadays in this economy. Head over to patreon.com/second tier and answer this week's competition question, which is the following. There are 6 teams in this season's championship that have previously been managed by Neil Warnock. But of those 6, which did he manage first? Now, that question will go live on Friday at 7 p.m. So all you have to do is sign up, answer this week's question, and you could be in with a chance of winning 2 tickets to go and see your club. The Christmas fixtures, of course, just around the corner. So now is the perfect time to enter. You will also get loads of other amazing benefits, including access to our amazing second tier Discord, which is the very best place to chat about the championship, as we mentioned loads of times already this season. So get involved, ladies and gents. Just before we get underway with today's action, just so you know, Justin, I'm doing 5 in 10 again today. We did it last week, so at some point in the show, I'll say 5 in 10, followed by a category, and I'll need you to name 5 of that category in 10 seconds, just to keep you on your toes, mate.
Can't wait, because this is obviously midweek games. This is an early record, so we'll see how sharp I actually am before a coffee as well. This is an interesting acid test for me.
Yes, it's a very, very fascinating test for old Peach Dog. But let's get underway with the midweek action, shall we? Because we've got quite a bit to get through, and begin with Sunderland, who are now 3 points clear at the top of the championship after a 2-1 win away at Luton. A rather bad-tempered game, this one. Loads of pushing and shoving and scenes we don't like to see, but actually do, particularly at the end. And one scene I particularly liked was Luke O'Nien jumping on someone's back during the old melee. He is absolutely balmy, isn't he, Justin?
Yeah, he's box office. He's box office shithousery. He's just a character within football. And I think, when every footballer in the world is now media trained to a T, they're a little bit bland, a little bit boring. Whereas Luke O'Nien, he's everything. He's everything you need in a footballer. He's what it was back in the mid 2000s. He's a bit chaotic. He's a bit unhinged, I should say. And he knows what to do to spice things up for us. He does.
I'm not sure about mid 2000s. I feel like everyone was kind of media trained back in the mid 2000s as well. But he's just different to what the modern day footballer is like, isn't he? And he's got a special place in our hearts, hasn't he? Our collective hearts here on the second tier, because he always seems to pull out some sort of moment like that. Apparently, Wilson Isidore was blowing kisses to the Luton fans afterwards as well. So I don't know if that got picked up by the Sky cameras, but that's certainly what I've seen on Twitter. So it seems like these two don't get on for whatever reason.
Well, that seems a nice thing to do, to blow kisses at fans. Depends how you take it.
Yeah, maybe it was a genuine act of good faith from Wilson Isidore. I'm not so sure, though. I'm not so sure. But as I say, it seems like these two don't get on for whatever reason. But, Justin, let's get down to straight facts. What a result for Sunderland. I know Luton haven't had a great season so far, but they were coming into this one on a high after thumping their big rivals at the weekend. This was a big test of Sunderland's character, and they stood up to it brilliantly.
They did. Okay, it wasn't a vintage Sunderland performance, if you like, but it was never going to be, because, as you say, Luton are going into this game, they're at home. It's a midweek game as well, and they're going into it on a high, and Sunderland they've had to adapt. They've had to put up to the challenge, and boy did they, because Luton looked a massive threat on almost every occasion they went forward from set pieces. But as I say, Sunderland took the punches, they rolled with them, and took the chances as well, because as I say, Sunderland didn't particularly impress massively in terms of their style of play. They weren't on the front foot as they are in most of their games this season. So for them to turn this around, roll up their sleeves and grit their teeth, it was that sort of performance. It was that sort of away performance, and you need that. And I wouldn't say annoyingly, but almost incredibly actually, when you've got a team that is doing that only serves to convince you a little bit more that maybe this is their year, because that sort of performance, that's what you do. You go away to a tough side, you roll up your sleeves, you grind it out, and they did.
Yeah. I 100% agree, Justin. I 100% agree. People will keep saying Sunderland's inexperience, maybe they're undoing as time goes on, but they played this like a team of experienced pros, didn't they? When Luton equalised, I thought, Sunderland may go back into their shell and ultimately end up losing the game, but they didn't and showed amazing character here. Look, Sunderland played some great football. We know that. Labrissa's, he lets them go out there and express themselves. In this game, they showed that they don't mind getting down and dirty and grinding it out. They went to Kenilworth Road, one of the toughest away trips they'll do all season, whacked their balls on the table and said, this is what we've got, lads. It was a massive test, and they passed it with flying colours.
Did you say whacks their balls on the table?
Whacked their balls on the table. Got the bollocks out, slapped them on the table.
Oh, sorry. I thought you literally meant they waxed them. They remove hair from their balls.
Whacked.
Okay, whacked. Well, the former definitely still applies because you've got to grit your teeth and get through that as well if you're waxing your balls. And you're absolutely right. They did. They showed the size of their cojones in that. And like you said, when you've got a young team that are doing that, don't get me wrong, Sunderland do have some experienced pros in there, like Alan Brown, for example, and Luke O'Nien. But it's largely made up of players who haven't played over 200 games at this level, who are under 23, 24 as well. So as I say, for them to go and put up a bit of a statement performance, if you like, this shows that they can win ugly, they can make it a horrible game for you, or they can get involved in that horrible side of things as well. It showed that, and I think, as we've been mentioning over the past couple of minutes, it's just that sort of performance that makes you go, okay, right, you've got something here. You've got those cojones you need to keep going.
Yeah, they've got them bollocks, and they're right there on the table for everyone to see. And speaking of which, I wanted to give a special shout out for Chris Mepham, who's only just come into the side relatively recently on loan from Bournemouth. Him and Luke O'Nien have been sublime at the back for the Black Cats. And Romain Mundle was class again. And the boy, the lad, Justin, Chrissy Rigg, doesn't turn 18 until after the end of the season, by the way. Just, I'm honestly running out of words for him. I'm just honestly so impressed with him every time I see him. That
£10 million to Birmingham, is that still still a good value?
Yeah, that seems like a good idea, Birmingham. Perhaps even. I think the thing is with Sunderland here, I was perhaps even more impressed with them than I would have been in a 4 or 5-0 win against some team near the bottom of the table, because anyone can pull that kind of result out of the bag, can't they? This was the kind of performance you see from a genuine promotion contender. I don't think you can underestimate how huge a result it is, because, when it comes to getting down and dirty, as we've said repeatedly, that's the real making of a genuine promotion contender, and I think they showed that here. That's why I'm just so impressed with this result. Got to give a mention for Luton having a goal disallowed. Carlton Morris putting it away at the back post from a corner. He's well onside, and at first glance it looks like a shocking decision, so much so that I even tweeted how bad a decision it was. But actually, it was given against Jordan Clark, who was stood in an offside position. So I stand corrected. Great decision from the linesman on that one. But perhaps a bit disappointing for Luton after the weekend's result. But I think they can take a lot of credit from this game, Justin. They powered the pressure on Sunderland, had some good chances, just couldn't get that equaliser. However, considering how low the bar was before the international break, I think this is a positive performance for Rob Edwards' boys.
In the context of how bad it was, it is a positive performance. But I think if you go back to the start of the season, you probably look at this and go, okay, it's quite frustrating. We didn't pick anything up because he got themselves back into the game. Momentum swung Luton's way, but they switched off with the Mundle goal, special goal. Really special goal from Romain Mundle, so not taking anything away from him. But it's about defending those situations better, and they didn't. And I think as well as that, they'll probably be disappointed that they didn't take their chances to get ahead of, to take the lead against Sunderland before Chris Rigg put his chance away. Patterson had to make some superb saves, and he pretty much kept Sunderland in the game by that point. So yeah, it was a positive performance. And it is a step in the right direction, but at the end of the day, it is another defeat. So it's not getting carried away or anything.
Yeah, I think you maybe being a bit harsh there, I think, really, Justin, because yes, they lost, but on another day, it could have been a very different result. As you say, Anthony Patterson had a great game in the Sunderland goal. I think it's just one of those rare occasions where both teams can come out of a game with a fair bit of credit, really, because we saw a lot of fight here from Luton, possibly a bit too literally at times, but it seems as if we're getting the old Luton back slowly but surely. I've got to say, I think Elijah Adebayo getting his first goal of the season is massive, by the way. He did have by far the highest XG in the division for a player without a goal. Looked very low on confidence after some big misses this season. So hopefully that can do him a world of good, and we'll see if Luton can continue being as chance creation free as they had been recently in the upcoming games. And speaking of a player finally scoring a goal after some big misses, that segues nicely into Middlesbrough, who bounced back after consecutive losses by beating Sheffield United 1-0. Middlesbrough put away a chance. Heavens above. It was Emmanuel Latelaf with a brilliant header in the 80th minute. And I know we go on about Middlesbrough's lack of a clinical edge in front of goal a lot, Justin, but a goal for the latte laughing stock, as you called him at the weekend, that could be massive for his confidence, because he was increasingly being the one missing those chances, wasn't he, Justin?
Yeah, now who's a latte laughing stock, eh? It's me. Egg on my face. No, he's certainly deserving of the criticism, because, as you say, Middlesbrough have been dropping points in games because they haven't been putting chances away. But this was a good example of them doing that. It took them a while to do it, because again, this was another game where they did create a decent amount of chances in it. But at the end of the day, they put away one of them, and that's the key takeaway. I do feel for the likes of Riley McGree, Finn Azaz especially, because he has been very positive this season. So for him to finally get an assist as well is another positive. But I think with Middlesbrough, I think this was a good game overall, to be honest with you. I thought both sides gave it as good as they got. But it was always going to be one of those fine line things, and given Middlesbrough's lack of potency in front of goal, you sort of start to think, okay, maybe the Blades might nick it here. But fair play to Latte Laugh for a stooping header. It wasn't an easy header. It was a stooping one. They had to get low for it. So positives.
Was it stupid? I wouldn't really class that as stooping. It's more like he's kind of thrown himself at it. It's like a old style diving header, wasn't it, from a throwback to the 80s kind of thing.
Stooping is where I think you have to get your head almost below your hip to get there.
I'm not sure he was below his hip, was he?
I'm trying to recall it now.
No, I don't think he was below his hip. I think he was it was a beautiful header first and foremost, but I usually think of stooping as one way you're having to get really low down, whereas this one, he's kind of just thrown himself at it and connected beautifully. But look, that's by the by. With Latte Laugh, it has been a surprise to see him start the season this way, because he ended the last one on fire, didn't he? So there's every chance that one goal could open the floodgates with him. Fingers crossed that is the case. I mean, in his defence earlier in the season, a lot of the chances simply weren't falling for him. They have been recently, though, so hopefully this can be the moment where everything changes, not just for him, but for Borough as well. And this is a big result for them, isn't it? I think it pretty much shows how strong Middlesbrough are, doesn't it? We've been smashing our heads against the wall, Justin, not just banging our heads, smashing our heads against the wall, saying how they've been playing really well, just not getting the results. Well, now they've become only the second team this season to beat a talented Sheffield United team. Mm-hmm. And, got to be said, we're much the better side against them as well.
Yeah, they were. It's no surprise, really, to see them play as well as they did going forward, because we have seen that very often this season. More often than not, in fact. And you are right. It is a bang the head against the wall scenario with Middlesbrough, because it's been rinse and repeat of the same thing over and over again. And it was almost a case here, because it took them 80 minutes to find the back of the net. It very much could have been another game where we're saying the same thing, but it's not the case. I think, again, I'm probably being overly critical here. It might be because, it's an early recording, I'm a little bit grouchy, but the same criticism does still apply. They didn't take the chances earlier on in the game. They did in the end. But this could have been a far more convincing win if they were just a little bit more clinical in front of goal. And I think that's going to be the key thing going forward to Michael Carrick, is getting that out of the sides, or out of the players, I should say. I did see some supporters on Twitter mention that I think Michael Carrick's pass-first mentality is what's doing causing the problem. But I disagree, because they are still getting in good areas, and they still got in good areas in this game, and we saw them time and time again open Sheffield United up with that pass-first mentality. So, it is down to the players taking their chances. They did in this game, but it nearly could have been another one where we're saying the same thing.
Yeah, I agree with you, Justin. I do agree with you. However, I think we should be more focusing on the positive side of things, that Middlesbrough have actually put a chance away for once. And it's a big win. I don't want to crown it a statement win, but I think it's a big result in the way that it shows Middlesbrough are the real deal, because they are a classy side. It's, just as we banged on about constantly, the end bit. But one thing we've not given as much airtime to is their defence, because just 9 conceded in 11 games. The underlying data actually indicates they've been unfortunate to let that many in. So, look, they've come up against a Sheffield United team here with so much talent in it, and restricted them to essentially one good chance up until the 90th minute, really, when Luke Ayling had to clear one off the line, which was earlier in the game. That's not the one that was not in the 90th minute, but you see my point. But having said that, they have been sublime going forwards. Finn Azaz, chance-creating machine. I think he's created the second most chances in the division this season. Young Ben Doak, on loan from Liverpool. 18. He's pretty frightening. If anyone's not seen much of Middlesbrough this season, you'll be hearing a lot about him sooner rather than later, because he is unbelievable. So I've got everything crossed that hopefully this is the moment where Middlesbrough's luck turns, and I don't see any reason why it could not, Justin.
Well, the reason why it couldn't is putting the chances away. I think
yeah,
that's a pretty obvious one.
Yeah, I know, but hopefully it may be kind of a sliding doors kind of moment.
Well, the sliding doors moment probably has to be for someone like Emmanuel Atelaf, who hasn't scored since the opening day. I think that's the sliding doors moment, is for the individuals as opposed to the team, because I think the team performances have been positive. They have been creating chances. Forwards haven't been taking them. They've been keeping opposition out. It's essentially the attack's got to carry the burden a little bit, not leave it down to the defence. So I think it's more so the fact that it's going to breathe a little bit of life into someone like Atelaf who needed a goal.
Yeah, I think another player who now needs a goal is Tommy Conway, by the way, who has been struggling a bit recently, but he's a very good player, and so hopefully things will turn his way as well. Sheffield United, Justin, I don't want to go as far to say as I told you so, because I think that's a bit over the top after 2 games. Not you, I mean a metaphorical you, but we were saying they haven't had many tough games so far, which is why I still had some reservations with them, despite their brilliant start. Well, now they have had 2 tough games, and they've been easily second best in both of them, haven't they?
Yeah, it's disappointing, really disappointing. And they had their moments, they had their bright moments, but it wasn't, it wasn't sustained enough. I think if you're going to take any positives, it's the fact that Jezreel Raksaki's a phenomenal player, but he's only a lone player, which is frustrating. In addition to that, I think these are the types of games where you need a Callum O'Hare to step up, because I think one positive you can throw Sheffield United's ways against Leeds and Middlesbrough, the last 2 defeats, is they've been in the games for a long time. They've not edged them, though. They haven't edged them, and you are right. They have been second best, but they've been 0-0 for long periods. So they've been lacking that little bit of quality that's been able to get them ahead. I think that's the main frustration for me over this last 2 games, because there is certainly quality in that team, but I just don't think we're seeing it consistently enough within a 90-minute period. And I think if we did, Sheffield United team would be comfortably top of the league, but it's just not quite clicking for Chris Wilder at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it was clicking before because they're unbeaten, but this feels like it was a real acid test for Sheffield United, and they've not passed it at all. They had a fantastic start and have now had pretty much a coming back down to earth moment, I would say. I'm not going to point all the fingers at Chris Wilder here. What I will say is I find Sheffield United to be rather negative for considering how much talent they've got in that team. Even during the unbeaten run, I was repeatedly pointing out that they haven't been controlling games. Well, they certainly didn't control either of these 2 games. In his defence, there are proving to be some clear issues in this team, despite it being full of talent. One of those issues is Kiefer Moore. And I know you love him, Justin, and I should prepare for stuff to be thrown at me for even daring to criticise your one true love. But he's not had a great start to the season at all. Callum O'Hare has struggled to make much of an impact in these last few games either. I'm not sure Gustavo Hamer's fit. He's certainly not playing like the Gustavo Hamer we all know in recent times anyway. So he's one to keep an eye on, and it does feel like the squad depth in certain areas isn't really there for Sheffield United. But look, they've got Stoke at home at the weekend, so it may be a case of business as usual after that. But these two games have highlighted the faults in Sheffield United's great starts, which is certainly something that Chris Wilder and the team as a whole need to work on quickly. Let's take a quick break, Peachy. After that, we'll talk about a nightmare evening for Dan Bachmann and Cardiff getting another bloody win. Welcome back to the Second Tier podcast. We're going through the midweek action from across the Championship, and we've now got Leeds, who made it back-to-back wins by beating Watford 2-1 at Ellen Road on Tuesday night. Leeds were helped to the win by two clangers by the Watford keeper, Dan Bachmann. The second one, maybe not necessarily in the dictionary definition of a clanger. Still definitely his fault, though. The first one, a proper howler, though, wasn't it, Justin?
Yeah, classic goalkeeper howler. What is the classic goalkeeper howler? Is it letting the ball underneath your foot, or is it letting it through your hands when it was an easy catch? Because obviously the latter is what Bachmann did.
If you are asking me what's the first goalkeeper howler that comes to mind, I'm thinking Massimo Tiibi for Man United, where he's let it roll through his legs. That's the first one I always think.
A hybrid between the both there, but it was a appalling mistake really from an experienced goalkeeper as well. It's not good enough. It's not good enough, and ultimately could have cost Watford the game. I think it happening quite early on is a difficult one to measure. Whether Watford can come away with the points there, but it certainly gave them a lot of work to do. Too much work to do. Ridiculous.
Yeah, I started off watching the Tuesday night action with Gillette Soccer Special on Sky, and Gareth Ainsworth was covering this game. He twice thought it was Elan Meslier who made the mistake and kept calling him Meisler. So it was clear that someone didn't have their monster that morning. But look, it feels like Dan Bachmann's been a topic of debate for Watford fans for decades, doesn't it, Justin? We're two guys who... Yeah, it does, doesn't it? But we're two guys who see a lot of Championship content on our Twitter timelines, and whenever a Watford tweet comes up, there's usually a very good chance it's about Dan Bachmann, because he's just been one of those hot talking points for a while now. Not sure what I think of the several tweets I've seen in the past 2 days of people superimposing his face onto Osama bin Laden, but that's an extreme example of some of the tweets that I've seen on my timeline. But look, in his defence, I don't think he's a terrible keeper. Statistically, he actually ranked pretty well compared to other Championship keepers, but he is capable of the odd howler, and that's undeniable. When that does happen, it makes people completely forget about all the hard work you've put in over the last however many games, particularly ones like this, where if they don't happen, Watford could have got something from the game, because, just to move the conversation along, Justin, Watford did actually play pretty well here and gave Leeds a right good game, and it left Leeds actually hanging on a bit towards the end of this, didn't they?
Yeah, it did. I think I would be confident in saying Leeds probably would have got the result had the clangers not happened regardless. I think them at home, Ellen Road, the quality that they've got, I think that would have showed throughout the game. But it left them chasing, left them getting back into the game. Maybe Leeds took the foot off the gas a little bit, and it gave the onus a little bit to Watford. But I think the reaction's a positive one, and that's the positives you can take from it, from a Tom Cleverley perspective. The way the team responded to going down 2 goals, and how they grew into that second half as well. And as you point out, Leeds were hanging on a little bit, but at the end of the day, they kept them at arm's length. So it wasn't too stressful for Leeds side.
I wouldn't say arm's length, Justin. I wouldn't say arm's length. Watford really did, put Leeds under a lot of pressure towards the end of this one.
Yeah, it depends how you measure pressure, but I think Leeds were, I wouldn't say relatively comfortable, but they did the job. They did the job. I think that's what I'll take from it. And I think what it does also highlight is probably a lack of potency in that final third for Watford, that lack of focal point. But that's an argument for another day. But the reaction was positive from Watford. But at the end of the day, I think had those clangers not been made, probably would have been a routine win for Leeds, regardless.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that either, to be honest. But I think there's a lot of positives to take from a Watford perspective. I mean, it was a pretty good performance, bar one player in particular, but we've covered that already. But I think it's a pretty good summary as a whole of Leeds United this season under Daniel Farker, that they professionally dealt with a team like Sheffield United, but then struggled to kill off Watford. Don't mean that disparagingly to Watford, but there's quite a clear quality gap between them and Sheffield United. Having said that, we have been urging Leeds to win more games ugly, and I suppose you can put that in this in that category. A bit of a concern was Larger Ramazani going off with injury. Leeds certainly lost a bit after he had gone off, so hopefully that's not too serious. But yeah, Leeds flat again, but at least it's a win, and that's how I would sum that up, because we have been urging Leeds to win more games ugly, and that happened here. Leeds have signed former France international Joshua Guilavogui on a deal until the end of the season. The midfielder has been a free agent after leaving German side Mainz. He spent most of his career at Wolfsburg, where he made over 180 appearances, has 7 caps for the French national team as well. What do you think of this one, Justin?
I'll be honest, it's really hard to make a full assessment on a player. Leeds have been very, very obvious in their search for a central defensive midfielder. Yeah, they've gone from... Remind me who they've gone from Chiarte, Coquelin, and now Guilavogui. So, they've been very clear in their approach on what they want. But they've got a player who's got a very good pedigree once more. I think that's the other thing, is they've gone for a player who's got international pedigree. And a lot of quality of playing within Europe. So he's a player who's got a ton of experience, as we know. That's been their MO. Sorry, looking for a player. He's got an abundance of quality. He's there to not make up the numbers, but certainly add a little bit of depth into that midfield. And I think him having experience of playing at a top flight level is always going to be a benefit as well, because some young players in that team's they're gonna look to him for a bit of experience, bit of guidance. And there's not much to really say about him other than he's got a very squeaky voice. Very squeaky voice.
Has he really? I didn't know that. I'll have to have a look at that later. I like how you said it's their AO, Justin. It's clear that you've been thinking a lot about AO Tanaka, just like all the Leeds fans have. Exactly. But yeah, it is very much like a Football Manager, isn't it, with Leeds, where they've searched ball-winning midfielder, international caps +1, because Kouyaté, Coquelin, Guilavogui, they've certainly been after a certain type of midfielder, haven't they? With a lot of experience, and they finally got someone in, so it'll be interesting to see how much he features. Justin, 5 in 10 name left backs currently in the Championship who don't play for Derby.
Oh God, Junior Firpo, Jamila Collins, Kenneth Parle. My voice is going.
10 seconds up. 10 seconds up. 10 seconds up, mate.
I was joking, man.
Hey, you should have cleared your throat before the 10 seconds. You should have been on your toes, mate. How many did you get there? You got about 3, didn't you?
I got 3. I got 4, but I was trying to clear my throat and it's still not recovered.
This is quickly becoming one of my favourite things here on the second tier, just doing 5 and 10 to just shock Justin whenever he's choking. So that means, Justin, you've lost 2 out of 2 when it comes to 5 in 10.
I don't think that was 10 seconds, by the way, but okay, fine.
It was. I've got a timer right in front of me. So yeah, Justin needs to improve on that sooner rather than later. We'll say that much for sure. Let's move back to the midweek action, shall we? Cardiff, they've now won 10 points from their last 4 games under Omar Ritza as they beat Portsmouth 2-0. Bloody hell, what's happened to Cardiff? They've gone from looking completely and utterly hopeless to quite good in a matter of weeks, Justin.
Yeah, looking like one of the best sides in the division. Gone from one of the worst teams to one of the best teams, or certainly form-wise. Not to get carried away. But yeah, the turnaround's brilliant. The turnaround is magnificent. Quite remarkable, actually, as well. I don't know, it just feels like they've got more clarity in how they play. The technical players are getting licensed. There's clearly confidence amongst the players. And you've got to applaud the change in approach from Omar Ritza. And it might, it might not have been the case that Reece has changed much from the Bullock days, but I can tell you now that maybe a new voice is simply put confidence back into a good group of players, because it is a good group of players. And they're showing it. They're showing it, and that's a real big change, real big positive. And finally, Cardiff fans can smile.
Finally, yes. They were very, very good here. I think it was actually comparable to the 5-0 win against Plymouth at the weekend. Actually, the big difference in that game was they pretty much scored with every shot that they had. They were never going to be that clinical in front of goal in back-to-back games, but I think this was a kind of similar level performance-wise, because they were just fantastic. Once again, complete night and day to what we previously saw with Cardiff, which makes this turnaround all the more bizarre. I think it's got to be said, at home to Portsmouth and Plymouth, two teams who haven't been amongst the strongest in the division so far. We will point that out, but in terms of Cardiff can only beat what's in front of them, and they've more than done that in these two games. They have been fantastic. So I suppose a question has got to be asked, Justin, regarding Omar Ritza. Of course, caretaker boss at Cardiff, looks to be staying in charge for the foreseeable future, whatever happens. But do you think he should get the full-time job now? Because he's been making a pretty good case for himself in recent weeks, hasn't he?
The best possible case. So, yeah, I think so. The upturn in performances are there to be seen. The amount of chances they're creating. It's how they're playing, really. He's not scraping wins. They've been very emphatic. I think you do have to take a little bit of, a little bit of caution with it, because they have played some of the teams that are down there, with Cardiff. But I think, as I say, like the attacking quality that they're displaying is just ridiculous. The amount of chances they're creating, again, is just ridiculous. They really are punching numbers. They're not scraping or only creating 3 or 4 chances a game. They are pummeling their opposition. Well, they have been doing it over the last few games. And don't get me wrong, I was sceptical. Maybe I still am a little bit. But I think Omar Reece has done a far more convincing job than either previous caretaker managers like Mark Hudson and Steve Morrison, for example.
Yeah, I think you have every right to be sceptical, Justin. And look, I'll start off by giving Reeds full credit, because they have been brilliant in these last 2 games in particular, and just generally much better in the time that he's been there. So should he get the job permanently? Does give me flashbacks to Mark Hudson, I've got to say. So for those who don't remember, Mark Hudson was the caretaker a couple of years ago. Got the job full-time after a decent reign as the caretaker, but then ended up getting sacked after 2 months because things went very wrong. Now, admittedly, Ritza is doing better at this stage than Hudson was, but I don't know, Justin. I'm still getting the same vibes with it. Do you know what I mean? I find it quite annoying, because it seems like it's the convenient choice for Cardiff as opposed to the right thing to actually do in the long term. Do you see what I mean? So it goes back to my previous concerns with Ritza, really. If he does turn out to be a Mark Hudson version 2, what then? And if he doesn't, and he actually turns out to be quite good, then fair play to him. But Cardiff's hierarchy shouldn't be praised for that, because they took the easy option and it just happened to work out for them. And look, the way things are going, I imagine he probably will get the job. But whichever way it goes, it feels like the people running the club haven't put anywhere near enough thought into it like they should do. Do you see what I mean?
I completely understand you. And I think my point I was going to make is the reason why we're a little bit sceptical and not getting too carried away with my research is because they've made poor appointment after poor appointment after poor appointment. Bullock last season was the outlier. The rest of them have been firefighters. They've not been sustained. And you are right. Maybe this is the convenient option. It just feels like Cardiff. Okay, can you do a job, mate? Can you do it? All right, cool. Oh, he's doing well. Fantastic. We don't have to do anything.
Yeah. It's like, we really can't be bothered to go out and find someone. So if you can help us out, go on, mate.
Yeah, exactly. It feels like an act of convenience for Cardiff, and it might not be the case, but they've never done anything convincing at a board level. So why should we be convinced now? And that is probably an unfair representation of the job that Omar Reece has done, because he might be another outlier. But unfortunately, the decisions the board has made over the past couple of years is almost tarnishing the work that he's doing, because it's really positive. It's really positive.
Yeah, it's got to be pointed out the next 3 games: West Brom away, Norwich at home, and then Luton away. So 3 tricky games for Ritza. as we say, it's getting to the stage now where it looks pretty likely he will get the job, whatever happens. But yeah, we'll wait and see when Cardiff actually pull the trigger on that, if it does indeed happen. In a meeting between two of the big strugglers in the Championship so far, QPR and Coventry drew 1-1. And I'm just going to dip into my big box of cliches here, Justin. Doesn't feel like a point helps either of these two, does it?
Yeah, I watched this one and neither really convinced me. They were quite poor.
It felt like a game between two sides very low on confidence, didn't it?
Well, yeah, it's exactly what Mark Robin said after the game. And it was a game between two teams who lacked confidence and self-belief. And unfortunately, it made me doubt myself watching it as well. It was just...
It infected you.
Yeah, why am I here? What am I doing? Oh no! Like that's in that sort of mindset after the game, because there were certainly better games to choose as the landmark game for Sky. But I think nothing can sum it up more actually than Coventry breaking late in the game with Ellis Sims. They were 3-on-1, and Ellis Sims makes a terrible decision to go to the goal as opposed to squaring it or laying up a teammate for an easier opportunity. And I think, if you're confident, if you're driving forwards, then that is a liquid scenario for Coventry. They put that chance away. But I think that just summed it up perfectly, because, as I say, even Haji Wright's goal was just like a collection of errors. Not clearing the ball. It was just disappointing. And actually, I can't remember the young man who scored for QPR now. Kieran Morgan. Even his goal was just a bit shit. I'm not advertising this game very well, but it really was a poor game between two teams who just are not believing in themselves at the moment.
No, it was a quest to see who could be the least shit.
Yeah.
They couldn't out-shit each other. Both were very sloppy in possession in this one. It was not one full of quality, it's got to be said, which is such a surprise considering, first of all,
teams.
Coventry have so much talent, and QPR may not have as much talent as Coventry, but really shouldn't be doing as badly as they are. I think maybe in the circumstances where both have been losing all their games recently, perhaps a point isn't a disaster. Having said that, trying to figure out who the draw suits better is really, really difficult, because I really couldn't give you a good answer in that. So, I mean, a win would have been huge for either team, and it's not happened, and it leaves them both in a bit of a pretty difficult predicament, really, because it means QPR are back. They're not bottom of the table anymore, but still very much in the bottom three. Coventry actually drop into the relegation zone, Justin. So, both these teams very much languishing at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, and I think the scary thing is guys, we're coming up to a quarter way through the season. Statistically, mathematically, we're coming up to a quarter way through the season. I think I might have got my maths wrong actually a little bit.
No, you're right.
Okay, well, I think that's the surprise. And I've still seen Coventry fans suggesting that they start season slow. And they will get going, but unfortunately that sort of performance that I watched does not tell me that there's a side clicking at the moment. At least you could argue that over the past two seasons where Coventry have started slow, there have been signs of life. It doesn't look like there is at the moment, and that's the worrying thing.
Yeah, they look a long way off, don't they, from being the Coventry side that we were hoping to see this season and definitely not seeing so far. So if there were signs, we definitely give them the credit for that, but doesn't look like that's the case. We will give some credit to 18-year-old Kieran Morgan, despite his goal maybe not being one for the ages. It's his first goal in senior football in just his second ever game, actually, so a very nice moment for him. QPR have got Burnley away at the weekend. Coventry are at home to Luton, so two tricky games for the two of them, really. And the final game we'll discuss from midweek is Norwich, who came from 2 goals down to draw 2-2 away at Preston. Considering Norwich have been pretty amazing in recent weeks, maybe not so much at the weekend, but they weren't incredible here just now, I think that's fair to say, but they managed to scavenge a draw after being 2 goals down. Is scavenge not an acceptable word for you?
I don't think they scavenged it, because I think there was a lot of positives to come from a Norwich point of view, because I think if they don't start that game as slow as they did, they maybe come away with the 3 points. But I think the character and the fight back is as almost as positive as a scenario. And also the way they got back into the game, the fact that Shane Duffy's breaking away as he was.
Justin,
come on. What's happening?
Shane Duffy, Norwich doing this amazing team move, and Shane Duffy is at the heart of it. It's one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in my life.
It was literally, at no point during that breakaway did I think, is that Shane Duffy? Is that like, and then the camera pans to him when he's celebrating. I'm like, what the fuck's just happened?
If anyone's not seen it, it's basically this kind of team move where Shane Duffy is just playing 1-2s all the way up the pitch and then eventually puts it in the back of the net. It reminds me, I think one of the most underrated goals in Premier League history is one by Dimitar Berbatov, where he has the ball in his, essentially on the edge of Man United's box, and then he's just kind of like passing it up the pitch, playing 1-2s with all these players, and just wanders into the box and then ends up getting on the end of it in the end. It was kind of like that, really, except it's Shane Duffy, not Dimitar Berbatov.
Well, it sounds like you're comparing the two there a little bit, if I was to, if I was to be facetious. But honestly, the team move is incredible, and I'm disappointed that we've given it away that Shane Duffy was the goal scorer, because I want people to have the same reaction that I did, to actually scratch their eyes and go, "Holy shit, that is Shane Duffy."
You've kind of blindsided me with Shane Duffy chat now, Justin. But I think the point I was trying to make was, considering Norwich have been pretty amazing in recent weeks, this was a bit flat from them, I think, but they managed to get back into it and get a point. It does seem a bit like Norwich are very much a home is where the heart is kind of side.
Yeah.
But if you still avoiding defeat on the road, I suppose that helps. But if one team, Preston, I was going to say, if one team was going to win it in the second half, it was probably going to be Preston, but even then they didn't create a whole lot. So yeah, maybe a point's a good result, and I'm being a bit harsh, but we'll move on to some interesting news, Justin, which has developed over the past week, and that's Jack Wilshere. He's been named as the new first team coach at Norwich City. The 32-year-old has been at Arsenal's academy since 2022, and the move, which was announced on Wednesday, sees him take over from Narcis Palac, who, of course, has gone to Stoke. It's very interesting, Justin, this, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really positive as well. I do rate Jack Wilshere as a coach. I know he's obviously been in charge of the under-18s. They got to the FA Cup youth final, which is always the measure of how good a young coach is they get the team there. But I think with the quality he has as a player, and also the noises surrounding him as a coach, I think this is a really, really positive move for Norwich, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him in first team management within the next couple of years, because I think he's on that trajectory, which is a bit of a coup from a coach point of view, I think. Yeah, well,
it's been branded as a bit of a blow for Arsenal, really, them losing Wilshere, because we're very highly rated there and very, very well liked by the academy players at Arsenal. Surprised to see that he's only 32 still. Bloody hell, it feels like he's been retired for ages.
This is it, isn't it? Because you always expect coaches to be sort of in their 40s, but you do forget that Wilshere had to stop playing very early.
Yeah,
and I think the fact that he could still be playing now is quite mad. I also think it's quite a risk getting someone like Jack Wilshere in as a coach, because he's going to be the best player at Norwich.
Yeah, 32 years old, he probably could still do a job, couldn't he?